I'm gonna change up some things on our agenda just a little bit, because we have Crystal here. But first of all, when we stand, I'd like to take a moment of silence to recognize and honor Constable Gary Moore, who recently passed away. Then Commissioner Mason will lead us in the pledge, and Commissioner Winters will lead us in the blessing. If you would, please stand. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which is one nation, under God, indivisible.
Shall we pray? Father, we thank you for your many blessings to us. Thank you for this community that we live in. We live in many times dark days, questions that we don't have answers. But we do know, coming through the darkness of the tribulations that come in our lives, we have a bright light of your Son, Jesus. Came as a baby boy, a virgin mother, authored by God himself. We thank you for that glimpse of beauty that you bring in the midst of our lives. Your Son came not only to live a life without sin, also to bring salvation. Thank you for that. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Okay. Again, we can change a few things up. Go to our agenda item, Broomfield Road property. Then we'll go to the mayor's report, then back to the budget amendments. All right? We want to work with Crystal on some things here. So with that, Broomfield Road Southeast property, Commissioner Slater, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Probably at least a year and a half ago, we had several residents of Broomfield Road come and speak to the commission about the condition of the property that is located across the street, which is on the property in question today. I believe this resident or the owners have attempted to be taken to court many times in the past year and a half. I think the owners of the home have passed away and the heirs have basically inherited the property. You can see in your packet the pictures of the property. We've spoken about it at length. And so I would make the recommendation that we consider using landfill money to clean up this property, similar to what we have done in the past related to tire abatement. And I put that in the form of a motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Slater to fund the cleanup of property. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any discussion? I recognize myself. Crystal, we fund this. We'll take care of the accounting piece. But I guess, sir? Yeah, I'll get to you as soon as I'm done. Is there any guarantee that anything we can put in there with the owners or anyone that we don't have to come back and do this again in a year or so, if that's possible? It's not. I just would like to have that if it's at all possible. That's I think the main concern for me.
I guess the simple answer is no.
Okay.
So, as Commissioner Slater said, this property is a little bit, well, it is unusual. I think it's the first one that we've ever had where there are heirs, and one of them has even appeared in court, but yet have not complied or cleaned up the property. The situation where normally this occurs, you have people who are deceased and there are no known heirs, or you don't have any that are coming. It is our information there are people on this property, either children of the heirs or grandchildren. There are people that are there, at least to some extent. So this one is unusual in that respect. If we clean it up, our options are, and we will, if we clean it up, we will put a lien on the property. And in some ways that guarantees that we will at some point get our money back, although not completely, and that can get complicated because if you put liens on property that makes them the lien higher than the value of the property, even though you can sell it through the delinquent tax process, sometimes your lien keeps that from happening. So I can't give you any guarantees. I can tell you that if we clean it up, we will attempt to ultimately get our money back. As far as making sure that they don't do this again, the only thing I would know of to do is if we can, monitor it from a law enforcement standpoint, if there are people there that aren't supposed to be on the property. However, if there are people that are there, I'm going to say legally, if they're in any way attached to the heirs, there's not much we can do as far as, or law enforcement can do as far as running them off the property. So that's a long way to say no.
Yeah, it's not, I'm used to it. The other piece, so asking you, I assume from the legal point of view, putting a lien on it will be part of the motion.
Yes, and we always do that. If we clean up property, we always put a lien on the property.
Okay.
It's just the process and that coming back. I just want you all to understand, I can't give you guarantees of when that'll be or if it will be. It just, we will do the best we can, I guess is how I would phrase that.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Alford.
Yes, Ms. Slater, do we have any idea what it might cost to clean this place up, or Mr. Mason, one of you might have an idea?
I will defer to Crystal, but I believe she had said somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000.
Yes, unfortunately, I don't have any hard numbers. I can tell you that the last time we did this, which was 2018, I believe, the cost was $5,000, and the property, we tore down a mobile home and took it away. So this one shouldn't be as work intensive as that one was. However, as you all know, cost of doing things since 2018 to now has increased substantially. So that's just best guess on my part. I did reach out to the person who cleaned up that property back in 2018, and unfortunately he is medically unavailable to do that based on his health. But Tim and I have talked, and we're hoping, I don't know anyone off the top of my head, but because it's going to be less than $25,000, we just have to get quotes. And so we can bring that information back. But as we sit today, I've got nothing other than a best guess.
Do we have any idea how much money we've got in that account?
Oh, we got more than 5,000.
Well, I figured that.
Well, look at the account analysis or the revenue side here in a second. It's Fund 116, right? We'll get that here in a sec. But fund balance is like $2 million or something. Well, I don't have it right. I don't have it in my tip.
Everybody's looking, but I didn't know if anybody going to answer the question.
I think, Lori, can you do me a favor when you get a second? Can you print out the revenue report, the latest one, October for Fund 116? We'll get that.
Okay.
Can we come back to you on that? And
Sure.
all right, Commissioner Winters.
Ms. Freiberg, what, if we clean it up and they put it in the same situation again, what options do we have?
Clean it up again or do nothing. Take them back to court, which has been.
Yeah. So it'd just be a spiral all along, no options.
Potentially.
But as I understand, we're going to ask law enforcement, I look over that way, to kind of drive by there every couple of months and check, maybe. And if it starts going down that path, intervene.
Yes, and truthfully, I can't really answer the question because I don't know who has put all this garbage and debris on the property. It certainly could have been people that were supposed to be there or authorized to be there. It could have also been people who were not authorized to be there, because certainly when there's no residents there, you have a tendency to have people there that are not necessarily supposed to be or authorized to be. So I don't know, quite frankly, which.
But there has to be a property owner. I mean, somebody owns.
There are 3 heirs that we know of. One of the heirs, female, did show up in court, and we believe that either her or some family relation to her has been at the property. So yes.
Please.
If there were to be after we clean it up, it comes back looking like this, can we charge them for our $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever we spend?
Yes, I mean, so if we clean it up the first time, we would put the lien on the property for the amount of the cleanup. If you choose to do it, I will tell you this, the city regularly does this. They will go in and they actually mow grass and cut weeds and do things, and they just continue to put liens on the property. That does sometimes result in what I said, though, which is the liens become so high that the property becomes not marketable at a tax sale because no one's willing to buy the property for what the minimum bid is.
Can we ever take it over? Can we ever take the property over if we have 2 liens on it and they're not going to pay it? And
We
becomes
could
our
get it
property?
through the delinquent tax process if we choose to do that.
Right.
Yes.
This isn't the only property that's like this around the county, correct? There are many of these.
Correct, yes.
So we probably need to have a plan in the future. I see in a lot of districts, the ones I drive through the most, there are multiples of this. And maybe as a commission, is there an opportunity for a way for us to build a policy that if this continues like this, that we work with the owners to buy out the property?
The only policy that we have in place is the resolution, which this property actually didn't technically meet the requirements of. We do have a resolution that allows us to go in and use landfill funds to clean up properties where we can't get an owner, we can't find an owner, the court process is unsuccessful. This is the only one that I'm aware of where we've gone through that process and that hasn't worked, and we also didn't comply with the requirements. So to my knowledge, and Tim may remember another one, but this is the only one that I'm aware of that none of our processes have worked, which is why we brought this one to you as sort of a what to do, because nothing has worked on this one. And we have a lot in place, and it usually works, but it has not on this one.
Thank you. Any other, Commissioner Mason, please.
And another thing, my almost 10 years of being environmental officer, normally court takes care of the majority. They come to court and they clean properties up. This is one or two that can't find them, can't locate them, and then they just showed up in court the other Thursday, so.
But in this one, we have a family member that will come to court, correct?
Well, sporadically, there are 3 heirs. 2 of the 3 heirs we've never gotten service on, which is why this case was in court for so long. In order to proceed in a court, you have to have, the person has to have knowledge of, and you have to get good service on them. We were unable to do that on 2 of the 3 heirs. We did get service on 1, and that is the one that has sporadically shown up to court, but she has shown no interest in, by her actions, cleaning the property up.
What would be the court options that a judge could do in a situation like this where there's been multiple contacts, nothing's happened, and they just blow us off?
We put a court order down that gives the county the option to go in and clean up the property, and that has been done in this case, and does say that the county has the authority to do it if we choose. And we always word it that way so that you all are not bound to do anything, but that you can. So that's the ultimate as far as you can take it in environmental court.
Is there another court?
Nope.
Just environmental court? No.
Yes, Judge Morgan, right? Okay, we have a motion. I'm sorry, any other discussion? So all we're doing today, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do we need to put a dollar amount on how much we're gonna spend on this? Like, can't spend more than $10,000?
Yeah, I think that's fine, yeah. Crystal, that'd be all right, Cindy, with your motion not to exceed? If it goes over 10, then come back.
I was gonna say, well, we will bring it back to you once we get the quotes.
Right now, we're just, can you repeat the motion?
My motion was to appropriate the money to clean up the property.
And not to exceed 10,000,
I can add not to exceed $10,000.
and it's gonna come out of Fund 116. So Commissioner Alford, if it goes over 10,000, they'll bring it back.
Well, I was gonna say, if the motion stays that way, then we won't bring it back to you unless it goes over 10,000.
So we'll have an amendment, I guess, to move money out of 116 in the January meeting. So this just basically we get it on the commission tonight to kind of pre-approve an amendment in a way, or the something. What you have to have authorization of mayor. You have to have authorization to go forward with this.
Yes,
You're looking for something from the commission to go forward.
Yes, this would allow us to move forward with getting the quotes and ultimately engage the lowest quote.
So after tonight, if it passes, then the ball's in your court to handle it. We'll handle the accounting piece in the January. Is that
Yes.
okay? Everybody good? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Laura, if you'll remind me to put that for the full commission tonight, I'd appreciate it. Commissioner Alford, please. No, I got the wrong report, but it is a little over 2 million. We got, but just since I don't want to wait, the revenue is way above. We were budgeted. We thought 300,000 come in, 398 came in, but I'll get you the trustees report. Okay, that is on the agenda. Crystal, thank you. You're more than welcome to stay if you want, but I wanted to honor your time. Then we'll come back here, and Mayor Davis, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your budget, Louis, projects a $2 million fund balance at the end of this year. So,
Oh, okay. I knew it was about that. And
actually, it was 1.9 plus the revenue's a little ahead. The only thing I have to report is your credit card report. Fire department used 1 time, all good. Assessor used 4 times. No hotel receipt. There's a note saying that it's for a hotel stay back in December. Sheriff used 5 times, all good. Mayor did not use. EMA used 4 times, all good. That's all I have, except I do have an additional 2 late amendments. I don't know if you want to do them before or at the end of your amendments, so it's up to you.
is that the end of your report?
Mhm.
Just real quick, Mayor, real quick. I'm sorry, Cindy. I understand this is the week that we're finishing up with the audit people from the comptroller's office.
Yes.
So we should have the audit by the end of the month.
Yeah, usually it comes in around Christmas.
That's what I thought. But no delays or anything like that.
No.
Commissioner Slater, please.
Mayor, you said there was, the credit card was used by the assessor's office from last December for a hotel room with no receipt? Or is that this December?
Maybe it's a misprint. It should have said November. I'm not sure. It does say December because it's a report dated 11/30. The assessor used it 4 times, and the note is that no hotel receipt.
Okie dokie.
Well, how can you pay an expense report without a hotel receipt? That, I mean, if I'm understanding what's going on, stay at a hotel, obviously you get the receipt with the per night, then all the taxes and all the stuff, but we're supposed to, the policy thing,
Yeah,
supposed to.
We changed that policy, and that
so
policy
you
was
don't pay
changed.
You don't do all that, get a check ahead of time. Is
Well,
that-
you're using your credit card at the hotel. They give you a receipt, but
Oh,
you
that's-
don't
yeah, yeah.
retain it. So you don't.
Last time I left,
Can they not call the hotel and ask for a receipt?
It's a question for the assessor, ma'am.
All right. I'll follow up.
I merely report.
Anything else for the mayor? Mayor, I don't.
Other than I do have those amendments to do sometime in
Yeah,
there.
we're going, if you're finished with your report, we'll jump into the amendments. We'll take yours up.
You want to go do them
Yeah,
now?
please.
Okay. I didn't know whether to pass them out or not. I've got, Louis, can you reach and get these? I've got 2 amendments from Juvenile Department. that came in last week on the 27th. They were reminded that they were late, but I did agree to bring them. One of these especially needs to be done. It's ARP money. They were told last month they needed to do an amendment in order to spend this on their courtroom improvements that they're making out there. The first one, they got a donation. They put the money into tuition. They need to move some of it to travel. It's money that was donated to them, and so that's why they're asking to move it to travel. It's to cover tuition and travel, so to put part of it in the proper line.
All right, we have an amendment. She's decreasing expenses of $1,000 and increasing expenses in account 54230, going from 356 to 355, tuition to travel. And you see the description there, as the mayor just explained. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. The next one.
The other one is ARP funds.
ARP money, $6,809.45.
You allocated 32,000 for a vehicle. It only cost 25,190, so that left this $6,809. They're asking to move it to 707 to go with money that they already had there, so they can complete the courtroom renovations.
So we appropriated 32, something thereabouts, for a vehicle. And luckily, the vehicle came in a little bit less, a lot less, relative. And then they found another use for the money.
Well, they had two lines in the ARP already budgeted, and one of them was for courtroom renovation.
Which we appropriated money for.
And you did. You appropriated, I think, 15, and they're asking to put this item out with that. I addressed it in the updated plan, but I told them you've got to amend it to the proper line because right now it shows you're spending it for a vehicle. With ARP especially, that couldn't happen. So that's why they're amending it, subject to your approval, yes.
All right. So the 15,000 that we did for improvements.
So they're telling you they're going to spend 21,000.
I hope. All right. We have
I have a question.
Commissioner
So
Slater.
where we have appropriated other ARP money for fire vehicles or other expenses, and that money was not spent, did that money just not come back to the general money to be reallocated, or did those people spend it the way they wanted to?
That's a great.
No, they can't spend it any way they want to. The plan, if I see them doing that, I update the plan because it's got to show what we're really spending it for.
Correct.
And then they would need to amend it if they wanted to use it for something else like they're doing here. If they don't amend it, then it does go back to the ARP fund balance.
Is this money already spent?
They're doing the renovations now. I don't know how much of it they've PO'd, but they are spending it. I don't know if it's all spent.
Go ahead, please.
So you approve this expenditure for them if we.
I did put it in the plan. When I picked up on it, I put it in the updated plan because I knew that's what they were doing, and then I explained to them, you've got to do the amendment so that the money follows the plan.
Oh.
And so that's why they're doing the amendment now,
So
yes.
when we approved your proposal after the water project you came back with this
was-
6,800 was in your proposal. So
It was in the update.
We've already pre-approved it in a way.
Well, you approved the plan. I don't mean you have to approve the amendment, don't get me wrong, but the plan is correct if you amend it. If you don't, it'll go back to fund balance, and I'll update the plan in the final version later on.
I feel like I just lost my argument though.
I was trying to stay proactive. I want that plan to be accurate. Because ARP will really rake us.
But, so, if we already pre-approved, well, I keep saying the word pre-approved. Your proposal has this in here and we voted as a commission.
But keep in mind, not taking the other side,
This really becomes just
Commissioner.
the accounting piece of it.
When you approve the plan, that's the first step, but you still have to approve those various things if they're either in the budget
Yeah.
or by amendment, so they still have to be approved by you.
But if we approve that plan, this is really now just the accounting piece, move the money in the right line to make sure that everything's I's dotted and T's crossed sort of thing. If we wanted to not go over the 15,000, we shouldn't have approved your plan.
No, you could still not approve the amendment, and that would tell them you stop at 15,000. It's totally up to you.
Yeah, please.
Could you refresh us what's being done? What are they doing as far as remediation?
Oh, gosh, I've seen the POs, but
Is it?
they're getting, in the juvenile courtroom, the one out there, they're refurbishing the room, the bench, a lot of the furniture type things.
This is not structural. This is internal.
Right.
All right. We have we don't even have a motion yet. We have a motion from Commissioners Winters to accept the amendment as presented. Do we have a second? We have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
We have 4-1. Motion passes. But I'm gonna add to that. I'm gonna take the chairman's prerogative. One of the things I was hoping we would do is, in the kind of the 189 fund is kind of this, is we appropriate a certain amount of money, and because during the budget hearings or during the budget process, they say, oh, we want a new vehicle like this, and then vehicle, luckily, comes in a little bit less. But that doesn't mean you have that difference between what we appropriated and the cost of that item to go spend however you want. But they did come into your proposal. That's what gets me.
Right. What they did, they actually PO'd the balance. I said you can't PO the balance for another use without getting the commission's approval. That's what required the budget amendment.
All right. That's all you have, Mayor? Those two? Very good.
Yeah, those two's all I had.
All right,
Jeff.
thank you. Going to budget amendments, and the first one is, Mayor was telling me the other day I scrolled too slow. Just kidding. All right, first one is 159,000. Oh, this is the one I'm gonna have in a, oh, here it is. 159,000 and 189, and it's moving over to building projects for refurbishing the court elevator. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Mayor, this is the one I had a question on, and Renee, from what I understand, you already answered, but I still don't understand. You're asking, and I agree with the whole, what you're trying to do, but the account analysis report has account 34585 at 117,599 change, but we're moving 100. Wouldn't that put us at a negative?
I'm sorry. If you look like that, but the reserves that were posted to that account were $177,000.
170. So I only have the latest one, October. So between October and the next one, it's increased from 117,000 to 177,000.
There was 177,000 put in there on June 30th. So
I'm sorry?
nobody, there was 177,000 posted in there on June 30th. We may have a little glitch there, and I'll have to fix it. But there was 177. We had to move that into reserve per audit. That is the gaming tax that comes in, and I move at the end of the year into 189. And we have
Right.
to use it as a specific, so
So-
there should be enough money in there
So
for this.
if I'm looking at this report and I think 117,000, how am I supposed to know that there's really 177?
I hadn't saw that report. But
I'm sorry?
I said I haven't saw that report, but there was 177 posted. I'll need to see why it's not showing.
Okay, Okay, what report has 177,000?
I do the reserves every year. This is the one that I do with all the reserves. So that's what we have in there. Somehow that's not correct. I'll have to see what the issue is
Okay,
and get it fixed.
again, what report has 100? What's the name of the report?
That's the spreadsheet that I gave you on that one that Gala's money was in. I have to do that for all reserves every year.
Okay,
So something is not right in that account analysis. I have to fix it.
but you understand, this is the only thing
Yeah.
I have.
I know. And as I said, I've not looked at that one, so I did not know that it was not correct. I'll get it fixed.
So we have 177 minus 159, so that difference obviously is
should
the
be
new
eight-
balance,
Yep,
of which we
18,000
could
should be
spend for
left.
something else.
Has to be a capital project.
Oh, we got plenty.
Yeah.
So Lori, can you remind me to follow up on that? The mayor, I mean, you understand what I'm
Yes,
saying?
I understand
There's
what
no
you're
way,
saying.
I have no way of knowing.
I understand what you're saying. I did not realize that there was a mistake in there. We'll get that fixed.
All right, so that report, that spreadsheet that you sent after we did Gala's amendment, that has the 177,000 in it?
That one's not gonna show that. I don't believe, I think all I sent you was the accounts that had Gala's in it, or did I send all of them? It's a big spreadsheet, yeah.
And that will have the balances of June 30th.
Yes, we only post to the reserve account at the end of the year, so.
Right, that's fine. All right. Sorry to delay that, but if we're looking at this report, see that right there, Commissioner Winters, that's what I was thinking. We have a motion to accept the amendment. We have a second from, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment. And if you're, the 159,000 is for the elevator in the annex, Mayor, and the one out here is not gonna be,
No, it's both
No.
elevators.
there's both of them. That's the only two that we have to worry about, right? All right, next amendment's coming from the mayor, 800,000. He's decreasing the fund balance and he's increasing the expenses. This is to purchase the 2 fire trucks. So do I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Slater? I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. Mayor, and back to our thing about the amount of money, the 2 fire trucks were $800 right on the dot. They didn't come in a little over.
It's like 798, 9 or something. But that does remind me, because that's been one of mine, I can assure you what'll happen there. 810 is in the plan. That 10 will come back and be reallocated at some point in the future. It doesn't go to the fire department, but we're only amending the amount they need. And it's a round figure, not the exact figure.
I was going for the joke. All right.
Very good.
Chairman,
Yes,
these are the
please.
2 trucks we talked about a week or so ago.
Yeah, I think we talked about them when I updated the plan. The 2 trucks
Yeah,
and,
McDonald and Taylor.
yeah, new ones for those 2. And the discussion was, okay, here's the price for one, but what kind of a break do we get for 2? And we got a little bit of a break, not as much as I wanted, but that's why the difference is there. And,
And he sold the old ones. Or he's going to.
will be. We can't sell them till we get these, but we will be selling them. Tonight, you'll have a resolution that approves us joining a certain cooperative, which will take care of the bidding issue, and then we can get in line and, I don't know, there's 6 months out, something like that. But I'll have the amendment in place. We'll get the thing approved tonight that we can become memberships of, and then then at that point, we can give them a PO and we're on order.
Hopefully there's no membership fee. All right. Our next amendment is $7,100 is decreasing the fund balance from ARP, and he is putting it in building improvements. This is for the doors over at EMS, which I believe they've already done or going to. So I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment. County Mayor, he's 128,000. He's decreasing the fund balance and he's increasing the expenses. This is for the purchase of tractor and forest spreaders over at the road department. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Winters? Do I have a second from Commissioner Mason? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment, also from the county mayor, 25,000, decreasing the fund balance in the art fund, increasing expenses. This is for the phone system at the Justice Center. I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. Mayor, on that same thing, you're working on the phone system for the rest of the county, and that was in your plan as well, I believe.
Yeah, the
right.
plan includes money for both. The amendment only takes care of Justice Center. We'll come back
Right.
before the end of the budget year and hopefully do the courthouse.
Next amendment is county finances, 168,000, decreasing expenses of the contracted services. This is the opioid that we recommended to the full commission that passed. You can see it itemized there in the different lines in that fund, Fund 111. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? A motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And Mayor, is there anything to add on the opioid?
No,
I'm not trying to make that a leading question. I just
no, those amendments that you just are recommending do what you all approved at your meeting last month,
Right.
so.
All right. The next amendment is the one that we rolled from last month from EMA, Troy Spence, 116,000 coming out of his undesignated fund balance and into building construction. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? I figure Commissioner Alford.
This is $116,000. Do we have any idea yet how much that's gonna cost other than the $116,000? Is that the engineering figures or what?
Troy?
It should be architect, engineering, hopefully some help, putting a grant together, with that. That was, a good estimate that I got from a contractor that said we should expect to spend about 100 or a little bit more to, get everything done to be ready to go.
Is there a time frame on when you should apply for this grant?
So the grant opens on March 1st and closes April 15th. So all the paperwork will have to be submitted within that time frame,
March?
March 1st.
So what needs to be submitted between now and March?
We'll have to get architect drawings, we'll have to get a feasibility study, environmental impact, all the things that the federal government requires to build things.
You have any idea? You got a packet, I guess, with all that information or something.
Well, I've got some.
How long
quotes
will
that
it
was
take to
given.
get those things done that you just mentioned?
I would think it will take just a little bit of time. Hopefully, I think we're pushing the envelope if we don't go ahead and move on this. The closer it gets, the harder it'll be to pull all that information together.
I looked at that site not long ago. I'm concerned that we can build something or get it $116,000. Have y'all been out there and looked at that drainage ditch that runs along that site?
Yeah, I saw it the other day when I had to go to the nursing home is right next to it.
Right.
So I saw it from a distance. I didn't walk over there, but that's about it. Chairman Cry, please.
Just have a question, really. We spend this money on the engineering and all, but then the grant, as I understand it, $2 million range, and we have a 25% contribution.
That is correct.
So we were talking about 100 and something now, then we're talking about 500,000. I'm just being, I guess, overly critical. I don't recall ever hearing about place. have a issue?
For the last 3 years, leadership at 911 has asked the committee, has asked the board for some guidance on how they can obtain more space inside the building. There've been several committees put together by the chairman of that board, and that basically they came back and said that they have more room in there, they just can't utilize it because we're in that space.
I understand. I guess getting back to the other point, we've got the money now for the engineering study, but do we have the money for the half $500,000 roughly, give or take, down the road? Get the grant.
Yeah, we do.
We
This
got
will
schools.
take a couple of years. I mean,
Yeah.
I believe the schools are still working on their FEMA. This is the same thing. It's a Safe House grant, right, Mayor?
Yeah, it's similar.
Yeah, their grant's different than ours. Theirs is for safe rooms. This is to build a EOC,
EOC.
Yes.
I apologize with my
Emergency
acronym.
Operating Center.
Okay.
If I could add to that, the things that's required for the grant application are what this money is for. And then we apply for the grant. If we get the grant, yes, it's 75% at that time, but we're 99% sure that we'll be able to count this work plus the value of the land as our portion of the match. Usually that's how federal grants work. So a couple $100,000 off of the 500 possibly. You see what I'm saying? We will, if we get credit for it. That's how it usually works. We will get approved for this, but they could not approve it this year, and they'll roll it till next year. We'll eventually get approved. We're 99% sure of that too, because they have grants for EOCs. Back to the space thing, and I noticed Sherry's here today. This all started because 911 was requesting more space. Let me give you the background of what got us to where we're at. 911's been requesting more space for 2 or 3 years now, and the chairman of the board appointed a committee to look at it. They looked at the options. Basically, the two options they looked at was building a new, larger 911 facility, and it was going to cost, I don't remember the number, but multi-millions, of which we would be 50-50 on. They looked at expanding the existing facility. That was going to cost quite a bit. I suggested, as one of the many more board members, that it would be less expensive if we just moved EMA out. That would give them their extra space, and that would cost a lot less than building a whole new 911 center or even adding on. It's questionable whether the adding on works because of limited ability to add on. So we then looked at build out of space in the building that the city schools have recently purchased, and that seemed to be doable. But at the end of the day, the cost of build out of that floor plus the cost of the generator that is required for an EMA facility was going to cost more than this match on this grant. So it made, and at the end of the day, we only had a 10-year lease. If they agree to go 10 years, they've never really agreed to that, but we think they would agree to 10 years, but definitely no more than 10 years. So we spend several $100,000 building out, and then at 10 years we have nothing. So we went back then to looking, and the reason we're looking at space for EMA again is to provide more space for 911, which they've convinced the board that they have that need of. So again, it's less expensive to find ideally property that we own and build on it if we can get the grant. If it's $300,000 or $400,000, that's the least expensive of all the options that the 911 board has looked at. So it's not 911 saying you've got to move. It's me saying I think it would be less expensive to move EMA out, and therefore you gain the war room, what I call the war room, if you've ever been in there, plus the 3 or 4 offices. So they would gain the needed space they need by EMA moving out. But EMA moving out does have a cost. So that's when Troy went to looking for a grant, and he found an ELC grant that would take care of it if it's approved. But these things that we have to do up front have to be done and supplied with the application. So this $100,000 is additional money brought in from the latest tornadoes. It went into the fund balance, and we're saying if you'll let us use that extra money that was brought in from the tornadoes, then that would make it possible for us to do this grant. And at the end of the day, if it's, I can't do the math in my head, but the 25% match minus, we think, this 100,000 minus the value of the property, then whatever's left, it's an 80-20 with the city. City hasn't approved it either, but they don't have a big problem. They're in the same boat we're in. If we go with a new 911 building, they're stuck with 50% of a huge number. So are we. So they know that 20% of this smaller number is the least expensive way to go and take care of 911 space problems, as well as the cost of moving EMA out. So that's a background of what's been going on for the last year or two, just so you'll hopefully understand it better. And if you read the sheet, it spells out what the 100,000 is for. Civil engineer, which they already have given you somewhat of a conceptual site plan showing that it will fit on the property. The surveyor to survey, hire the architect. Got to go through that process. We've got to have all that done before the application goes in. The soil sample testing and the environmental impact, and then the needs assessment report. All of those things have to be prepared before that April 15th deadline. The drainage, you're going to have those almost anywhere. That's yet to be known, but we think that it's doable based on the site plan, situating the building and the drainage and so forth that would have to go in there. Seems to be, the civil engineers seem to be fairly comfortable that it will work. We don't know for sure on anything, of course, until we get into it. But we have found property that we already own that looks better, and we have looked at several. And we didn't want to have to buy, because then that would even add more cost to it. So I'll hush with that, but that brings you up to speed on what's been going on for the last couple of years.
Okay, Commissioner Alford, please.
Question, Mayor, what other properties have we looked at?
Well, we looked at the almighty flat property at the ballpark, which wasn't flat and was really bad. We've looked at Dalton Pike property that you're in the process of selling. We've looked at possibly SPCA property, although that wouldn't be available for at least another year or longer, assuming they're wanting to give up the lease. We looked at the school building that they bought. Name another one, Troy. Is there one I'm not thinking of? I know you've.
That's it. I mean, we looked at several of them. We got out and walked all of them. We even.
And location's sort of important. I know you've requested a copy of all properties we own. Maybe that list will show you something that we haven't thought of, but I doubt it.
It is a very convenient and central location for our operation. So.
And it's unused property. We've never had a use for it, so it just seems like the least expensive way to fix a problem that we all have. 911 is a problem we'll all have to address at some point, and I think this is the least expensive way to address it, is all I'm saying. I can't think of other property we have that's not leased to someone. I mean, you could say McDonald possibly if you're looking at that list, but it is leased, not a good location. That's the ones that we have looked at anyway, for sure. And I don't believe there's going to be anything else come up off of that list.
You mentioned SPCA not going to do anything for a year. Do we know that for a fact? I know they got the bid the other day. They've got their money. I presume they're going to start pretty soon on that.
Well, I don't know their timeline, and having discussions with them, I know if we approve selling it on the 18th, it'll probably get closed in January.
And there's a difference in size, sir. If, 2 acres
I know.
versus 3 acres.
So I'm just saying a year. Nobody knows. They also have it leased, so I don't know 100% sure what their plans are as far as foregoing the lease. And that property, topos on that property would probably look as bad, if not worse, than this property. There's not many flat places in Bradley County that's not been already filled in. It's a sloping piece of property. You talk about size. How many acres is it versus this?
2 acres versus 3 acres.
Yeah, so doable, but not larger. So anyway, the preference would be this site of all the ones that we've looked at and everything considered, is all we're saying. It's not that it has to be any certain, but, I'm trying for the life of me to think of some place that we haven't thought of, but I can't. I don't know of another piece of property that we would possibly own that might be flatter and larger. 3 acres is sufficient. If you look at the conceptual, it shows the size of the building, it shows the parking lot, it shows that it does work, shows that it does not interfere with the recreation department, does not interfere with the farmer's market, or the recycling center, or the cannery. It would have its own entrance off of that Cleveland Mall Street. I don't know if it has a name or not, but I think that's everything that you've asked us to look at.
Mr. Oliver, you still have the floor. All right. We have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Winters, please.
Have discussed this with the nursing home director, and he's very positive that it would be, if there were to be a need of evacuation, if there were to be any need there, you would be right across the facility from them. So I did inquire to see, and I know they've had to deal in the 12 years I've been on that board. I'm not on the board now. They have dealt with that drainage line you're talking about because it goes through some of their property as well. They could give us some information on that. But I do know they've had to deal with some
Yeah,
of that.
Mr. Oliver, we did
Yeah,
that.
it's kind of hard to see on that site plan, but goes under that little road and then turns left and then goes over almost to the cannery, recycle, and goes straight back. So the drainage ditch, in our opinion, won't be an issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Troy, real quick, have you spent any money on this endeavor so far? Any money? I mean, you got this.
Technically, no, I haven't spent money, but we did get that drawn, so there will be a cost with that.
How much did you spend on this?
I haven't been billed yet, but the quote that he gave us was between $1,500 to $2,500.
And they'll have some more work to do, but please understand, you question whether this piece of property was big enough for what we're proposing, so we had to go get an engineering firm to
No, I'm
show
just
you that it
wondering
does.
If we've already started spending, that's all I was getting at. I mean,
But just a small amount so far.
yeah,
yeah.
sounds it, yeah. That's all. Real quick, if I may ask, the 911 center, he was talking about the committee that was looking into growth and all that you guys are looking at. So this will give you what what your committee asked for. What the mayor obviously gave a economical point of view, but 911 center is growing, and this helps you guys out with the number of people or the equipment or both. As far as your growth goes, you guys are going to stay over there now if this happens, right?
Yes, it will suffice for the time being. I wouldn't commit to the next 20 years.
Sure.
But yes, it would give us what we need right now.
And that's
We
what-
are completely out of office space. We actually have some office personnel that are in closets. So it's not a great situation, but it will give us what we need now and should suffice us for, at least the next 5 to 10 years.
Right, and it's going to take a couple of years to get the approvals and all that kind of stuff, and you're just going to have to bear with it until that happens, I guess, right? Very good. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussions on this amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
We have a 4-1, motion passes. Moving on to the next amendment, and there's a supporting documentation. Bradley County Fire and Rescue, it is $1,245. He's decreasing his expenses from instructional supplies, and he's moving over to food supplies. So I guess they're hungry. I'm just kidding. So a motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment. Still with the fire department, he's decreasing the expenses He's decreasing out of gasoline $12,226.90, and he's increasing other equipment. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment, the trustee's office, a whole whopping $100. He's moving it. He does it. Well, he doesn't do it backward. He does it right. From 356 over to 307. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Staying with the trustee's office, $900. He's increasing his expenses in office supplies and decreasing tuition. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say
Aye.
no. Sorry?
Understand.
You aye twice. Okay. All those, we're done. Motion passes 5-0. Staying with the trustee's office, $500. He's increasing utilities, and he is decreasing his contract services for $500 of the same amount. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Slater, sorry.
So why would he have to be increasing utilities this early in the budget cycle? I could just see May or June, but November, he's already out of money for utilities.
I don't think he's out. I think he's projecting
Yeah.
that he needs more, but
Pay for increase.
I think he was putting all his amendments all together in one time. It is more of a projection, but we can look at the expense report and see where he's at on line 452 in account 52400. Get that to you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Lord, if you'll remind me to look at the expense report for that account, I'd be forever in your debt. Moving on. Next, also the trustee's office, $1,045. He is increasing his expenses of office supplies, decreasing contract services to purchase additional supplies. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment, Bradley County Sheriff's Office. This is an employee. Yeah, they're making him pay for the medical piece like that. Anyway, $315. He's increasing revenue, increasing expenses, so it's money coming in. I have a motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there's the check. And then we get in, is the rest of the amendments, Renee or Lori, services rendered? Okay. Oh, that's right. These are salaries that she fixed, and according to her, we asked her to do this. $656,000. This is just rearranging so that, this happened about a year or two ago. Mary, you may remember, is that they were paying deputies out of correction officer lines or vice versa. This cleans it up that if you're a deputy, you're paid out of deputy. If you're a correction officer, you're paid out of correction officer. If you're admin, you're paid out of admin. So Cassandra's cleaning this all up through amendments. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And the next one is the same concept where she's just cleaning up the clerical line. I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0.
Now the rest of them are all
So
services
the
rendered.
rest of these, and there's no like hidden one at the very end.
I
just
think you have a
kidding.
hidden one at the very end that you added.
All right, we'll take these up from page 20 to page 47 as a package deal. These are services rendered that we take together. I have a motion to accept the package amendments from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes
Look at 47.
5-0. Then we had the last one there, the election office, because they are, from what I understand, best of my knowledge, that's my disclosure, they have entered into an agreement with the Bradley. They will have early voting at Bradley Square Mall, which I think is a good thing, but the cost is a little bit more, so we're going to fund that. Here's an amendment for 19. It's coming out of our 599 over to the election commission's 599. I believe the total cost, they already budgeted 600, so I believe the total cost is 2,500. So I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion?
I'm glad they're back. I'm glad they're back there.
Mhm.
It's a great place to vote.
Yeah, I believe there's some negotiations, but we'll let the election office know, but early voting won't start at 9, it'll start at 10. I think that was one of the things that they asked them to change, because that's when the mall opens, like that. Anyway, I have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Believe that concludes all of the budget amendments. Back to the agenda. And that is all there is. This time, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak, you're more than welcome. And Lori, if you'll help me out. Afternoon.
Afternoon, guys.
So if you'll give Lori your name and number.
Elmer Earls, 156 York Circle, right next to the landfill.
Thank you.
First off, I seen a write-up in the paper about tonnage is coming back in, but first off, I want to thank you guys for voting down the liquid sludge that they wanted to bring in because of, like I said, it would have been stench everlasting. But, little update, Thanksgiving Friday through the weekend, these people over the landfills know better than Santec did because it stunk all weekend. But at least when they gave them the okay to bring tonnage in, Harry McCann, at least he only said 180 days instead of 4 years, 6 years. But I want to kind of give you an update of what's been going on. But all I can say right now, thank God that everything's been more breathable in these last couple of years than ever. Thank you all again for trying to help us. God bless.
God bless. Anyone else? We have a captive audience. All right. Seeing none, our next finance meeting, obviously we're not going to do it on the first week because of the holidays. Finance, as of now, is going to be January 8th, 2024. I want to wish everybody a happy Christmas. I sound like a British person. Merry Christmas. And we are adjourned. Thank you.